Telstra's 4G network goes gigabit, but what does that mean?
And why is Amazon Prime delaying its hit shows in Australia? Vertical Hold is proudly brought to you by Alcatel.
Welcome to Vertical Hold, the tech show where we channel surf through the headlines in search of the big picture. I'm Alex Kidman, and I'm joined by a man who has secretly been cast as the next Doctor Who, Adam Turner. We're also once again joined by Finder.com.au Editor-in-Chief Angus Kidman. Gus, welcome back to the show.
I am the master and you will obey me.
Adam, what's new in tech?
Apple head honcho Tim Cook has confirmed that Apple is looking into creating its own original television content, putting it in competition with pay TV giants like HBO, as well as streaming services like Netflix, Hulu and Amazon. While rumours of an Apple streaming video service have persisted for years, at the moment it appears the video content will fall under the Apple Music umbrella.
US President Donald Trump's executive order banning select green card and visa holders from entering the US has drawn wide scorn from the tech industry. Google employees walked off the job to protest, while Microsoft, Apple and Netflix CEOs all issued statements decrying the ban. But Uber caught a lot of criticism for employing its surge pricing algorithm for folks trying to attend protest rallies at New York's JFK airport.
Credit card giant Visa continues to dabble in wearables, testing smart sunglasses at music festivals in Melbourne and Sydney, with built-in wireless payment chips similar to a tap-and-go credit card. The Visa Wave shades will be loaded with $50 worth of credit as part of the trial. But should they be released to the general public, it'll be possible to link them to a bank account in order to top them up with more credit.
Popular ABC game show Good Game has been cancelled. The announcement was made this week that, owing to the departure of two of the show's hosting crew, the main series, as well as spin-offs Pocket and Well Played, would be axed, effective immediately. The Good Game spin-off for younger gamers, Good Game Spawn Point, will continue, but apparently it'll be retooled before it comes back onto our screens. Visa is finally giving me another reason to wear my sunglasses at night, but should I be excited about pay shades?
Well, I think it's a pretty cool idea, but I don't know if that idea in itself has a lot of merit in it. I think it's more about the general idea of, lifting the tide for all boats, just getting people interested in wearables and contactless payments in general. In that way, it's really smart. But how practical it is to have them on your face, how easy it would be for someone to rip them off your face, I'm not sure
Am I just going to headbutt a pay terminal in order to actually pay for a burger or something? I don't get it.
Assuming you have to take them off your face and wipe them over the scanner, unless they put the scanner at head height.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's to take them off and wave them. I think the issue is, I was chatting with a colleague of mine today who's a big music festival attender, so who was very excited about this, but then said, the problem with sunglasses is they're the things you lose all the time.
True.
Much more so than the other devices.
Yeah.
So, and while you've got the usual limit, you couldn't lose more than $100 that way. If you're at a music festival or anything and you lose your sunglasses, it's going to be a pain. So I agree. I think it's good to say to people, hey, there's different places we can put these, but I don't know that Sunny's going to work unless you put one of those grandma style chains around your neck so you don't lose them.
That'd be cool and retro though, wouldn't it? People would actually pay extra for that.
The problem is I think that it's retro but not cool.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty rich judgment coming from me.
I also figure, though, if they're only being loaded with $50, how far is that actually going to take you at the average festival?
That's true.
It's going to, pay for a drink and a stale hot dog, and then you're out of cash again.
Well, exactly. But I think, for the purpose of the trial, that's the thing. Yeah, you'll say, well, when you finish with the $50, then maybe you can just head to the mosh pit and get them trashed.
I still think that no matter how much they spruik this stuff, they're still going to struggle to convince people that you can leave home without any cash, without any cards, without anything, just your glasses or just your wearable. I know if I was going to anything like that, I'd still want a bit of cash in my pocket. We're a long, long way from being anywhere near a cashless society.
I think you're falling into old man Turner territory.
It might be. Get off my lawn.
I know lots of people for whom when they go out, the only things that they've got with them are their phone and one Visa card. That's it. That's all they need. The cash is not relevant.
So maybe this is the strategy. When your pocket gets picked at the music festival and your phone and your credit card are gone, you can still pay for the Uber home that someone else will have to order for you because they just nicked your phone. So my example is collapsing as I speak. But you can still pay for something.
You can pay for your taxi with your Sunnies, yes. There you go. We're making life easier for partygoers everywhere. So, send your donations.
So, Alex, Telstra's LTE network's getting faster again. Did you say 1 gigabit wireless broadband?
Yes, 1 gigabit wireless broadband within some certain limits.
XXX conditions apply, read below, whatever. All right, what are those? How realistically am I actually going to get my gigabit per second?
So at launch, and they did their press launch for the service this week, and to give them their credit, they are the first people in the world to do this. Australians can, be slightly proud of the fact that our mobile networks are world leading in this particular aspect.
Yeah.
But at launch, what you're going to see is the technical availability of Gigabit LTE in the CBD of Melbourne, Brisbane and Sydney. They're only promising those plus Adelaide and Perth this year. And all of those are within a 1, maximum 2 kilometre radius of the CBD.
Well, that's not a lot. 2 kilometres brings in a lot more, especially in Melbourne. 2 kilometres brings in some of you in a suburb. 1 kilometre is not much.
1 kilometre is not much, and also the way it does this is it does this with carrier aggregation. So it's bringing in a whole bunch of mobile signal in order to achieve a theoretical up to 1 gigabit, and there's another trap there which I'll get to in a second. But as a result, you're only going to see it if you can get that really good, clear mobile signal. So for their test demos, which were insanely fast, I mean, they had one demo running yesterday which peaked at 900 megabit, which is extremely impressive. I mean, you could do an awful lot with that kind of speed, but that's with almost nobody on the network. As soon as this actually goes commercial, and especially as soon as they start getting it widespread, it's exactly the same story that we saw with 3G. It's the same story we saw with 4G, and with some of Telstra's improvements, 4G, 4GX and so on, and some of the hotspot products they've had, which have peaked it up to a theoretical 600 megabit rate, that as soon as you start getting a sufficient quantity of people on a service,
it's going to crap
the data
out.
rates dip. And as such, whilst the technical specification says, yeah, look, this can do up to 1 gigabit, Telstra's own advice, which they've got to write in order to be compliant with Australian consumer law, says that the expected range is from 5 to 300 megabit, which is a fair slice down from your 1 gigabit.
Your mileage may vary. Gus, are you excited about 5 to 300 megabits?
Look, I still am, because I think any speed increase is good. The brutal reality is that at a lot of things, once you're above 100, you're going to actually struggle to find services where that extra speed is really super useful.
Yeah.
You're going to find you're constrained by the actual things that you can load in and get hold of. So I think it's always nice to have more speed out there. I can see there'll be a market for this, but yeah, I struggle a little bit to work out in mobile contexts. What are the things you want to do? Like, what are these huge torrent loads that you're pulling in?
So Telstra's context for this, at least initially, is that it's a rising tide situation, in that if, for example, you're waiting to get on a plane and you want to load some Netflix content onto your tablet, which has, which you've attached as hotspot, and presuming that your airport is within 1 kilometre of the CBD, which I don't think any of them are, but let's say they build one in Sydney really fast. Presuming you fit that scenario, or they expand the network out, you do that, and it takes that, because it's still within the broader network, it's still a 4G LTE product. Because you've done that fast, you've then taken all that other strain off the rest of the network. Everyone else is doing well as well. So it's this idea that we'll all be more efficient. But of course, this also dodges the other issue with this particular product, which is something that can suck down mobile data that much faster, is something that can suck the money out of your wallet incredibly quickly.
Yeah.
At an astonishing rate.
So
It's also it's interesting, that whole piece of, okay, it's altruistic, it's a way of helping people. It feels like a stopgap, because one of the big selling points for 5G is the notion that you don't see speed degradation. There's not necessarily massively faster, but that it will
consistent.
You'll be able to get more people on there, and it just feels like, well, part of me would rather wait for that than play around with this.
They absolutely talked about this product as being a stepping stone on the way to 5G. That this is what they will do on the way to 5G to meet demand, to meet need, to meet load balancing. It's not entirely just altruistic. Of course, it makes their network look better for more people as well. And it's a great marketing tool.
So which devices is it going to work with?
So initially they are launching with a single hotspot, and this thing is unlike any other hotspot you've ever seen, because typically your typical hotspot always looked a bit like a pack of playing cards with a screen.
Yeah.
This thing looks like an Apple TV. It's that big.
Wow.
It's the first hotspot we could commit murder with.
Absolutely. Oh, you could commit murder with an old school hotspot. You just have to be
Just
really
depends where you
determined.
stick it.
You'd be there for hours, basically. So this thing has bandwidth for murder. But I'm sure that's not really something they put on the box. No, this is a large hotspot. It does a lot of other stuff. It's a Netgear provided hotspot running off a Qualcomm modem, and it's got a very, very large battery in there, can do battery boost for your phone, but also has USB-C and A ports for media streaming as well.
Okay.
Ups the range of devices to 20 that it can support, which obviously has some business potential, I guess. So it's physically, I mean, it's a nice piece of tech, but that will be it to start with. Now, the other thing, and the reason I brought up the Qualcomm connection there, was because the modem that's in this, the X16, is also in their new Snapdragon 935 SoC, which is allegedly, as per the rumours, going to run the new Galaxy S8 smartphone, which Samsung have delayed and apparently, again, according to the rumours, gobbled up all of the supply of. So we won't see phones that do this until at least the S8, and then, of course, once Samsung's exhausted its exclusive on it.
Yeah.
All Qualcomm would actually tell me yesterday about this was that it will probably be in the second half of the year.
The other thing you're saying that this thing can handle 20 devices at once, that's a little bit like the benefits of having, 100 megabits at home. You say, oh, what could I do with 100 megabits? It's more like, no, everybody can do what they want and not get in each other's way. If you've got a gigabit, then you could run a small mobile office off it and have a dozen people on it, and they're not tripping over each other and fighting for bandwidth. So maybe that's more of the appeal than saying you as one person can download things ridiculously fast. You can all have decent speeds.
Absolutely, although it really, really bears pointing out, and I've already seen some commentary and hit some commentary around this, this is not an NBN replacement.
No, actually, no, yeah.
You are
Stop the bus right there, yeah.
You're still talking about a shared wireless thing.
I was not implying that in any way, shape or form that wireless is any substitute for fixed. We've said that time and again. But what I meant was that the argument is the same, that rather than saying why does one user need an insane amount of bandwidth, it's actually catering to multiple users on the same connection. Yes.
Quite.
Don't send your angry letters to me. Send them to Alex.
So Adam, one of the great things about streaming services is that they give you all of a series all at once. There's no delays, there's no waiting, except when there is, because Amazon's holding back on us, isn't it?
Yeah, Amazon can't quite make up their mind what they want to do in Australia. They want to be here, but they don't want to talk about it, and then they want to talk about it, but they only want to give us some stuff, and it's very frustrating considering that their streaming service is trying to go up against the likes of Netflix. They're not really doing a lot to help their cause. The other thing they're not doing to help their cause is holding back content, and not just because of rights deals with other people, they're actually holding back their own original content. This is the great thing about Netflix, is with their own content, we'll say something like Daredevil, right? They made it, they release it around the world, same date, everywhere, right? Now, Amazon is also making its original content, and one of its flagship shows is Man in the High Castle, which is based on a Philip K. Dick novel. Now, season 2 is coming out, unless you're in America, and then it's already out, because they've said this weird thing where Australians will be able to watch it on February 10, big launch. Or actually, we'll let you watch a little bit on February 3, but February sometime. And then people saying, but hang on, haven't it been available in the US and the UK since December? And isn't it your show? So why are you making us wait for it? And it sort of goes against the whole idea of trying to fight with Netflix when you are going to make people wait.
And they've become repeat offenders on this front.
Yes.
They did something similar with Sneaky Pete, which is another one of their kind of well-regarded shows.
Yeah.
And that, not such a big gap, that got delayed by 2 weeks between when it came out in the States and when it came out in Australia. But again, it makes no sense. It means, that at the point when they're launching the show and they're trying to maximise the excitement, they're also saying, well, no, you guys can't have it. It's a very odd decision to make with shows that it owns. It's not like it has to negotiate sideways rights with this. It's not like some of its earlier shows, Transparent, it sold off to Stan because they just, there was nowhere for them to show it at the time, and that arrangement continues. But these aren't shows that appear to suffer from that restriction. It's hard to imagine that they didn't have global rights to them right from the start. It's possible because they've been making both of these for a couple of years. Maybe they messed up their contracts early on, but you can't imagine. I find it hard to imagine they wouldn't have just said, we have rights to this in all countries and we can do what we like. And yet, that's not what they're doing.
And it's not as though Amazon, of all companies, is going to lack the server capacity to serve these programs pretty well.
It's not,
exactly. Yes, they have the local presence here. And in Australia, you can't watch that much stuff with them anyway, so it can't be that hard to get all that out into the CDNs.
Which is especially baffling. They're the cheapest of the streaming services with the whole $3 a month, 6-month trial thing they've got going. But by far, they've got the least content. I mean, you can actually... It is physically possible to scroll through every program they've got. You can't actually do that all that easily with Netflix or Stan because the content libraries are just so much larger.
Yeah, and it makes the flagship super important. Obviously, they got everyone involved off the Grand Tour. That was the reason Australians were interested. But having done that, if they want to maintain interest, they need to tell their subscribers, hey, we've got these amazing shows. And, Man in the High Castle is their highest rated thing. So
it makes me wonder, though, speaking of the Grand Tour, if it wasn't just someone at Amazon going, right, well, we figure this is going to be pirated, and apparently it was, but we figure this is going to be pirated a fair amount. How can we make some money out of it? Hence the global launch. But that it was a bit of a half-hearted, we'll just see if we can make a bit of the money back that we've, driven up to Clarkson, Hammond and May out of those markets that would otherwise be pirating it. But then otherwise we kind of don't really care. We've got these programs which we don't quite have. It almost feels like it's a bit of forgetfulness on their part.
I'm prepared to believe that actually they are a bit disorganised because after writing about this today and then tweeting it out, I had a couple of people tweet me back and said, hey, I can already watch the Series 2. I don't have to wait till February the 27th. So,
and they're on Australian accounts?
And they're on Australian accounts, that's the thing.
Yeah, that sounds very Amazon.
And because Amazon had that weird period where you could kind of semi-officially sign up before they launched it, I feel like basically they don't know where all their customers are and that some people are slipping through the cracks.
I think they just don't care so much about video. I think they're so focused on all the talk about launching a full online retail service in Australia, talk about supermarkets, talk about all this other stuff. To them, video is just some rubbish thing they do on the side. Where Netflix, it's their core business, so they actually do it right.
No, Prime Video is very much, it's the cherry on the top. It's the sign
But they're not treating it like the cherry on the top. They're treating it like the thing on the side.
Here's the extra thing that you get.
Here's the other possibility. Yeah. They've got so distracted and confused by the fact that they've actually got a movie nominated for an Oscar. But that's thrown off their game and they haven't got anything sorted out. Yeah. Because it is for them. It's a little bonus. It's something else to throw in there, but it's still something that they feel they want to be competitive in. I think, and actually, interestingly, they do overlap with Apple in this respect, in that part of what you get for Amazon Prime in a full version is you get access to a big streaming music catalogue. And if Apple's going ahead with these rumoured plans, they're playing in very much the same space as saying, hey, that's how we'll try and do some of the underpinnings.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not working real brilliantly for Amazon, and I doubt it's going to work very well for Apple, but we shall see.
But I mean, Apple's not even the first in this kind of business. Microsoft has dabbled in either sponsoring programs, so they sponsored the Guild, for example. They were fundamental in funding a fairly interesting little documentary about digging up ET cartridges in the US. Sony had its whole Powers series for PlayStation. A lot of the big tech companies have kind of dabbled in this idea of, let's be video producers. And none of them have really ever managed to leverage it into a full-flown product. Now, Apple might be able to do this. At the same time, if I'm Apple, I'd almost be wondering if they're looking at Netflix's financials and just saying, hey, is there enough in the war chest to buy that?
Well, it would make more sense to them because actually Apple Music itself, based on the market share figures, it's just not a very competitive base to be launching into that space because the available stuff suggests that it has something like, a 50th of the audience size of Spotify in that pure music space. So even though you've obviously got Apple fanatics who would probably sign up for anything, but they'll already be on, they're not going to get attracted into the service by new video content
because they're there anyway.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I mean, maybe they just have to get someone really big. But we've seen Amazon try that with Grand Tour, and it's not yet clear, probably never be clear, whether that was worth the investment for them.
Well, Netflix had the big problem that when they came to Australia, is that lots of people were already using Netflix, and they had to try and convince those people, win those people across to to the Australian service rather than the US service. I mean, they were paying either way, but they wanted you to be part of the Australian service. Now, Amazon doesn't have as big a problem. There would be some people who were sneaking into Amazon Prime before it launched here. It was possible to do, but there wasn't as much of an attraction as there was to sneak into Netflix back in the day. But I don't see how they could hope to win those people across and convince those people that they should be using the Australian service if they're going to offer A, such a small catalogue, and B, delay the stuff they already offer. It's almost like they've sat down and said, what can we do to annoy people? What can we do to give us the least chance of success in Australia?
Again, though, I think this comes back to being the cherry on top of the sundae. And until they launch the sundae in terms of Prime, in terms of the shipping, in terms of available retail stuff, whatever it is you want to buy from Amazon, and they pretty much want to sell you everything.
Then I think they're doing an arse about. I think they should have either launched the entire thing at once or launch the full service and then drop the cherry on top. They're doing it in such a piecemeal way that they're taking this amazing dessert and making it rather unappetizing.
Yeah.
Have we milked this analogy enough, or is there more to go here?
There could be more to go there.
The cow is feeling a little dry, but we'll see what we can do.
No, I think the real test for this will be whether we're still seeing this in a year's time, because there is still the most likely explanation may still be that they just hadn't.
They're still getting their act together.
Rights wise they hadn't thought about global, but that will sort itself out within 12 months, because Netflix had some similar issues at launch. They'd sold off House of Cards to a couple of people in Australia, so they didn't have complete control of that, but nobody worries about that 12 months
but that at least made sense, and they talked about it.
A little bit. Yeah. Again, they're not super. But I think the test will be, if this is just a sort of glitch because they haven't thought about global, it should disappear within 6 to 12 months. If they're still doing it after that, then we're just going to have to assume that they're making so much money that the people planning the video service have just basically gone on some kind of massive sugar high and just don't care what they're doing.
Well, that just about wraps it up for this episode of Vertical Hold. Got any thoughts about the topics we've discussed? Drop us a line via Twitter or the Vertical Hold Facebook page. Thanks to Gus for joining us for the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks everyone for listening, and remember, if you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button. Vertical Hold is proudly brought to you by Alcatel.
I think it's cruel to keep an abominable snow person chained up like that, but yeah.
But they have excellent acoustic qualities.